to the garage, YouTube. I am Doc at Doc's Motorcycle Service. Rawr, 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 rawr. This is going to be really quick, and then we're going to get right to it. Because we had to break this video in half. Hopefully, you have seen the previous video. If not, this one's not going to make any sense. Should be a little link popping up right here to, I guess this is going to be video 7-2 part B, and the previous video would be video 7 part 2A. Again, trying to keep them long, keep you interested, not want you to lose interest. So let's get right into where we left off on the previous part of this video.
So you got your clamshells, they fit together like this, and in the hole there is where the reduced part of your bar goes. And what we're going to have to do is fit the rocker switches in here, your turn signal switch down here, and as you can see, you've got mounting slots here. These two holes right here are what holds the clamshell together, along with this one here. And your bolts come up from the bottom down here and right there. And in the bottom down here is where your horn switch is going to mount via this hole right here. And the small pieces, these ones here, this little piece of metal here snaps in and it acts as a clamp to take tension off of your wires. Let me show you what the other one for this side looked like. What we're going to do is take out this screw that you can see here in the bottom, which is basically the new screw right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to hold your wires in place to keep tension off of the welds. You can see here how the wires are welded together there. So let's take that out and then we'll explore this one a little bit more. Alright, so we got that screw out, and now what we'll do, well, let's just simply take it up and dump it out for the purposes of this. Now you can see in here much better. By opening this thing up, it gives us some room. You can see how your button switches attach there. And again, one of the reasons that I'm doing this is I'm comparing the new one to the old one to make sure that it's going to work like it should and fit like it should. So comparing this one, the top half looks good, bottom half's the same way. We got the screw down there for that one. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and get these mounted into the clamshells, the top and the bottom. Okay, not sure if you can see that. The back side of the switch has two tips right here and right here. And there's a groove right here and a groove right there. What you do, put it in at an angle, bring it up, and make sure that those tabs are sliding in to those two grooves. And if they do, and when they do, your switch mounting hole should be lined up just right. You can see it right there. If we put our finger on it, we can push it and everything works good. So we're going to go ahead and mount that one now. Each side of your clamshell is going to come with a new tab, 3 washers, 3 screws. Now the other tab mounting kit like this for the other one has 4 washers and 4 screws. So we'll look at that when we get to that side. Make sure you have proper filament for your slotted screwdriver. Make sure that it's fitting in there, it's not too big and it's not too small. If it's not the right one, you're going to screw up the threads on this thing. Also, keep in mind, even though these kits are expensive, they're cheap, so go real easy. So all I'm going to do is get my screwdriver prepped. I'm going to slide it in here to the hole. And here's a little tech tip, something you might not be aware of. But if you put a screw in and you want to make sure that the threads are lined up properly, hold it in the hole and turn it backwards until you feel it click. Listen. Did you hear that? That means it's in there the right way. It's a little thunk. And we're just going to give this a good snug. I've been thinking about whether or not to put some Loctite on these. Let me take a coffee break and think about that. Okay, yeah, so I thought about it for a little bit, and I was thinking to myself, this stuff being pot metal, I really didn't want to put a German tightening on it. You know what German specification is, right? Good and tight. It's good and tight. It's good and tight. Because I didn't want to risk pulling these threads out. I didn't want to risk tearing these threads up. But I want it in there snug. And I'm going to tell you something. If you ride motorcycles, you know the thing that gets worked over the most is these controls at the top of these bars rattling a lot. So what I'm going to do, I've got some blue Loctite. And I'm just going to put just a wee bit on here. If there's any in this tube. Yeah, well, that's maybe a little bit more than a wee bit. But once it goes in, it'll be fine. Just enough on here so I can put this thing in, give it a quarter grunt. There's my little click. Give it a little quarter grunt. There we go. All right. So, yeah, I don't want to. There's a fine line between over tightening something and not tightening it enough. And until you've turned wrenches, you're not going to know what that is. Until you have destroyed the threads, either on what you were working into or working out of, you're not going to get it figured out. Just when you think that, if you ever get to that point and you think to yourself, okay, just a little bit more, maybe only give it one little bit more. Don't give it two. You're going to screw up. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get this bad boy turned around here, and we're going to get it lined up the way it needs to be. And we're going to bring these wires here, up here, into the top of the clamshell. And this is going to be kind of funny because they're going to lay in there kind of interesting. And there's going to be, yep, looks like the same thing. We got tabs right here that's going to go into these slots right here. But we're going to have to adjust the camera a little bit. We're going to have to bring this toward me so we make sure that this thing bends, because these wires are going to have to go out that side. So we're going to get this one tightened in. Then we're going to figure out where we want this to lay at. We're going to bring these up to the clamshell, up here to the handlebar, along with our clutch lever. Okay, so that one's in. Now don't be afraid to have your old piece laying here and use it as a mark for how your new piece is going to go together. So we notice that we got these wires coming out here, and we got those wires over there. Everything's looking like it should be. So we know that this piece here lays down in here like so, with this old piece on it to hold it where it needs to be at. So this one's going to be a little bit more tricky. We're going to have a lot of moving pieces on this one. So you can see how the little tit on the end of this little spot right here on the old one, has a groove that it lays in right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold that in place. Okay, and we got it started. Now we're going to take a look at it. Okay, good. Now you'll notice that the black protective wrapping on the wires, I chose to put this under the clamp as opposed to putting this over all those wires. And again, the reason is another layer of protection between the metal and the wiring inside the plastic coating. So now if it vibrates and gets loose, it's got to rub through not only the black protective coating, but each coating around the wire. So that piece looks good. It's lined up. We're going to go ahead and give it a quarter grunt. There you go, feels right. And then these pieces right here should just fold over on top of each other. Looking good. Alright, now what we're going to end up doing is taking this clamshell while pushing this in and pulling the extra out down here on the bottom. As you can tell, Linda's not here to help me, so I'm going to have to do it by myself. Oh boy, I'm a grown boy. She would say I could do it. But with the clamshell, now what we're going to do is very gently work these around and get them where they need to be at. Don't worry about your pretty little chrome. You can always wipe that up later. The key to here is to make sure that everything's going as it should be. Everything's lining up. Everything looks good. We've got our slack. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to our mounting hardware. Now you'll notice that you've got two sets of mounting hardware. This one has a thumb screw in it, and basically what that is it's your lazy man cruise control. I'll show you that on the other one. But on the earlier bikes, when you had your hand on the throttle, there was a button that you could turn. You could set the throttle where you needed it to be at and then use this thumb screw. Well, let's just go look at it. Here's your controller off the other side. And as you can see, there's a thumb screw right there. And the idea behind this, you can see, is right there. Is that when you would get when you would have your throttle over here and you get it to where you wanted it to rest your hand, and this one's probably locked up. No, there it is. Oh, there it is. What you would do is, because your throttle handle goes in here, when you get it to where you want it, you would turn this with your thumb. This would tighten up and hold your throttle right there. But in any case, we know this goes on the throttle side. We're working on the clutch side, so this undoubtedly is our hardware for the other side. And I can see we got two screws in there. They're Allen head, button head, whatever you want to call them, and two lock washers. And guess what? The kit comes with an Allen for that. So these two will open up. One will go in here, the other one will go in there. So we're going to go ahead and get our Loctite on our screws and get that set up and get this one tightened up. So I've chosen to use my T-handle Allen head. Another tech tip: be real careful with these things. Again, remember, you're working on pot metal and you can severely over tighten something with these. So go real easy with what you're doing here. I've made the decision not to put any Loctite on these just yet. As you might have noticed, we are working on the handlebars laying flat on a table. They will fit on here and tighten up, but they're still movable. So what I'm going to do is put these on. I'm going to snug them up along with the clutch handle, but I'm not going to use any of the Loctite. Here's why. I want to get the bars on the bike, then get the rider over here, and the last thing we'll do before he takes it for a ride is have him sit on it, put his arms up there, and see where they feel comfortable at. Snug that one up, but don't kill it. Come back down here, get your other one. Get it lined up where it needs to be at. Turn it backwards. Can you hear that click? Hear me? Right there? What that's telling me is that the thread has turned backwards until it's bounced out of the hole and fell back in. That's what I was trying to tell you a while ago. Do that every time. And then all you got to do is start it. That tells you that the threads are lined up. Okay, snug there. Now we got our clutch handle. And all we're going to do is take these out, snap it in there. We're going to ease our piece over to the outside edge. Again, being careful with this. Everything's looking good. Now this is where it's going to get kind of hinky, because you're going to have to move kind of quick on this when you're doing it by yourself. Go ahead and get one of your screws set up. Bring your hand lever in on the back side. Get it notched in where it should be. Get your other piece lined up. Again, and forgive me because it's kind of backwards. I'm working with this thing. But looking at it from right here, it looks like I've got where I need to be at. Still on camera. I ain't got no Linda here with me. Putting it in. Turning it till it clicks. Snugging it down. Should stay there now. Get our other bolt lined up. Checking our lineup again. Getting our click. Getting this done between the guy cutting the grass. He's getting ready to start blowing. But I think we got a winner here. I think we got it done just in time. Yeah, looks good. Now again, it's not perfect, but we won't have it perfect until the owner gets on the bike. But definite improvement, don't you think? Okay, so a little bit of information here that we discovered on how this thumb lock worked on the right hand side in that itty bitty little C-clip right there. When we opened this side up and we started looking in it, the first thing we noticed on the outside was the thumb lock and the spring. Okay, thumb lock and spring. But sitting way down in here off of this thing was the C-clip that goes on the back. So now sometimes you just got to have some automotive experience or motorcycle experience to understand what this does. That C-clip went on the back side of this thumb screw the same way this one is going to snap onto that little bitty ring right there after it gets screwed in here, and that prevents you from losing it. Okay, so we're moving forward with the right hand side controls. So your brake light switch, which is right here. So when you are not holding your front brake lever, this is out like this, not making contact. When you pull it, it pinches this in, making contact, which sends power to your terminal block, which then clicks on any lights on the motorcycle that need to light up when you hit a brake. Remember, motorcycles have two brake switches, the front hand lever and the right foot pedal. So here you just want to squeeze this together, hold it in, slide it into this spot, and then slide it down until it comes out that hole. Then we'll just take whatever we got, a pick, whatever. I know you're not going to be able to see this, but you just manipulate it. And if you can see it, right down there at that hole is where the screw's going to go. It's going to be fun getting that in place. We'll be back when we have that done. Okay, so here's where rubber hits the road and where you've got to be really, really careful. If you'll notice this part right here, when you squeeze your handle in, see how that goes in and out? Alright, when it's out like it is, it hits this little rubber plunger on your brake switch, which holds it in. So when you're putting this together, a lot of times, because this rides slightly past that lip right there, they tell you to come in the back here and put in a piece of cardboard, which keeps that piece tucked in, therefore preventing you from breaking this switch. So I'm going to take this piece of cardboard. It doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be enough to come in right here at this gap. So we're going to stick that in there. That's going to hold that where it needs to be. Notice when I pull this in and let the cardboard out, see how it came out past it? I can get behind it with my pick. That's bad. Because if you do that, what's going to happen is the rubber tip on the brake switch is going to get hung on that and it's going to break. So now we got it where it needs to be at. We're going to rotate our harness a little bit. We'll get a little bit more slack out for it. Just having to loosen these up a little bit to bring everything together as it should be. Alright, the bottom one's in, top one's in. Alright, now I'll re-snug this one back up and everything should be lined up. Alright, we'll get this tightened up and we'll be right back. There you go. Got them all in. They look really good. Everything looks well. Sun's setting. We forgot to put in the thumb screw down here on the bottom, but we got that taken care of. And although we do not have the carburetor cables hooked up, we went ahead and just put the grip in there so you could see how it would look, and boy, it's sparkly. So yeah, so now we got our lines coming out the bottom, and in the next segment we'll put these on the bike, get them mounted. We'll take these wires here, bring them down through here, and then we're going to jump into tying the front loom into the terminal block, and then the right side and the left side moving back forward. So there you go. Now we've got the new wiring harness inside the handlebars. We got the new controllers on up top, and we've got two videos specific to anyone out there who is looking to do either of these projects. You know, keep in mind that on the older bikes and the newer bikes still, your throttle handle will either go into the clamshell on the right. So if you're trying to put new grips on and you've got an older bike that has the throttle cables that come up through the clamshell and tie into the grip, that's a great video to see how that's done. You just skip to the part where you take the clamshells, you loosen them, wiggle the grip out, put your new grip back in, or
You take them off, take your throttle cables out with the barrel fittings, slide them out, slide your new ones on. There you go. Bob's your uncle, whoever Bob is. But also on the other side of that, you've seen how you can, wire your handlebars and swap out your controllers if you put longer apes on there. Strangely enough, those replacement wiring harness thumb switches and stuff, those were 48 inches long cables. And after going through the handlebar down, out and back out, we only had about that, maybe about 12 inches left, which is enough to take that and run it into the tanks. So next video, we're still in the series 7 wiring harness. We're going to look at putting the bars back on, getting the cables brought down, getting the dashboard wiring harness into the terminal block. So this series might be a little long. I mean, there's just wiring's the hardest part of this thing. So as always, I appreciate you coming by the garage. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the Facebook page. Post some comments there. It's a great way to interact with the community as we all learn. It's just it's a good thing. So again, thanks for coming by the garage, and we will see you in the next video series. And cut.